The wind moved like a whisper across the endless plains, dry grass bending in waves beneath a sky so vast it seemed to have no edge. Long before cities, before language, before the idea of time itself, the world breathed in silence and light. Volcanoes rumbled in the far horizon, spilling slow rivers of fire that met the dark lines of forests and swamps. The air carried the scent of wet soil and smoke, of life and decay, a world both newborn and ancient. In this primal age, where survival was the only truth, small bands of early humans wandered through the wilderness, fragile in body yet fierce in will. Their hands, scarred and rough, held the future of all mankind, though they did not know it. Their hands, scarred and rough, held the future of all mankind, though they did not know it. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight spilled through the mist, glinting off the backs of giant insects and wet leaves. A female from one such tribe, her name lost to history, but her presence eternal, crouched near a muddy riverbank. Her hair was tangled with dust and grass, her skin darkened by years of sun and smoke. Around her neck hung a cord of twisted vine with tiny shells and animal teeth, not jewelry, but memory, a small collection of what her people had touched, killed, or feared. She knelt to drink, scooping water with cupped hands, watching ripples distort her reflection, eyes alert, sharp, ancient. Behind her, the tribe stirred, children whining softly, the old groaning, the hunters sharpening crude stone tools that had taken days to shape. The land was both cruel and generous. To survive, they had learned its moods, when to walk, when to hide, when to kill. Thunder meant movement, the smell of rot meant food, silence meant danger. Each step was a decision between life and death. Predators stalked the shadows, saber-toothed cats, packs of wild dogs, and the dark shapes of crocodiles waiting in still water. But hunger drove them forward, always. The woman's mate, broad-shouldered and silent, led the hunters along the ridges, their eyes scanning the open fields for the slightest movement, the flicker of fur, a tremor of grass. Their weapons were little more than sharpened rocks bound to sticks, but in their grip, they became extensions of will, tools of survival forged through pain and persistence. As the sun climbed higher, the heat turned the air into a shimmering veil. Sweat stung their eyes, insects bit at their skin, and still they moved. The woman gathered roots, fruits, and small creatures from the earth, her fingers quick and sure. Every action was instinct, every breath a lesson passed from countless generations before her, lessons without words, remembered in muscle and bone. Her child clung to her back, small and silent, his eyes already wide with the awareness of danger. For in this world, childhood was brief, every young life had to learn fast or perish. By midday, the hunters returned with little to show, a half-eaten carcass, scavenged before the lions had finished. They tore what meat they could, swallowing greedily, their stomachs aching with both relief and hunger. The woman sat beside the fire pit, a hollow ring of stones blackened by smoke, and rubbed two dry branches together until heat grew between them. Sparks came, faint but real, and she fed them with dry moss, her breath careful and slow. When the first flame appeared, small and trembling, she gazed at it as though it were a living thing. Around her, the others murmured, drawn by its light. Fire was life, warmth, safety, and the promise of another night survived. It was also memory. She had seen her mother do the same, and her mother before her. The tribe gathered as dusk fell. The land cooled, the insects quieted, and the horizon burned with the last light of day. Overhead, the sky deepened into indigo, sprinkled with stars that none of them could name but all of them could feel. Their fire crackled, and in its glow, faces flickered, faces shaped like ours yet still caught halfway between animal and dream. They had no words, but they had eyes, and in those eyes burned the same question that would haunt humanity forever. Why are we here? The woman looked toward the distant trees, listening to the calls of unseen beasts, the slow breathing of her sleeping child, and the rhythm of her own heart. She could not name love, but she felt it. She could not define fear, but it ruled her steps. She could not imagine tomorrow, but she lived for it. Each breath she took was a battle against the endless dark, a defiance against extinction. This was life 1,000,000 years ago, brutal, raw, and astonishing. The earth had no mercy, and yet in that mercilessness, it gave birth to something greater, endurance. Beneath the cold stars and the rising smoke, these early humans, small and trembling, began the slow, invisible work of becoming something more. And as night closed around them, the woman held her child close, feeling his warmth against the chill. The fire flickered in her eyes, ancient light reflected in ancient flesh, and for one fragile moment, the world seemed still. The cries of predators echoed across the plain, the wind whispered through tall grass, and the scent of smoke drifted toward the stars. It was in that moment, brief and eternal, that the first spark of humanity, not just fire, but meaning, was born. The morning came with no mercy. A grey mist rolled over the plains, cold and wet, wrapping the land in silence before the light broke through. The fire had died in the night, its ashes pale and cold, and the tribe woke to hunger once more. The woman rose first, her limbs aching from the chill, her breath visible in the air. Around her, the others stirred, slow, quiet, worn from the day before. A newborn whimpered softly beside its mother. An old man coughed into his hands. A young boy stared at the horizon, where shadows of distant beasts moved against the fog. The night had spared them, but the day would demand payment. Every sunrise was a challenge, every step a test of how long flesh could endure the will of the world. The leader, her mate, known only by the deep scar that cut across his shoulder, stood and surveyed the land. He had no name, no tribe mark, yet his presence carried weight. In his silence, there was command. He was both protector and predator, shaped by countless battles with the earth itself. His eyes scanned the distant trees, where the fog thickened and the cries of giant birds echoed. Food lay there, but so did death. He motioned with his hand, a silent sign, and a group of hunters rose, gathering their weapons. The woman watched them go, fear tightening her chest, but she said nothing. Words were still unborn, communication lived in glances, gestures, breath. The world spoke in signs, and they had learned to read it better than any language that would ever come after. The hunters disappeared into the mist. Hours passed. The tribe waited, conserving strength, watching the sky shift from grey to white. The woman busied herself with small tasks, sharpening stones, weaving vines into carrying nets, nursing her child, but her mind was never still. She listened to every sound, her senses sharpened like the edge of a blade. A snapping branch could mean danger. The rustle of leaves could mean food. Her stomach growled, and she chewed bitter roots to quiet it. Hunger was constant, like the heartbeat of the earth, a rhythm that ruled all life. By midday, the hunters returned, but their faces were hard. One limped, bleeding from the thigh. Another carried a piece of meat, the leg of a wild boar, torn and dirty, half devoured before they could claim it. Their leader's scarred shoulder was streaked with blood not his own. He had killed, but not easily. The woman's eyes met his, and in that silent exchange passed the story of the morning: danger, struggle, narrow survival. There was no celebration, only exhaustion. The tribe ate in silence, gnawing on charred flesh, their hands trembling with relief. The taste of meat was not pleasure, it was endurance, the body's agreement to live one more day. When the sun began to set again, the world turned gold and red, painting the grasslands in firelight. The woman sat by the river, washing the blood from her hands. Around her, insects buzzed, and small fish darted through the shallows. She stared at the reflection of her own face, ancient, fierce, alive, and for a moment, she wondered. Not with words, not with thought, but with a deep stirring in her chest. Why must everything die to keep living? Why must every sunrise demand sacrifice? It was not yet a question of philosophy, it was instinct, raw and unformed. But in that unspoken question lay the seed of all human thought. The beginning of wonder. Night came early. The tribe gathered near the fire once more. The flames danced in their eyes, painting the illusion of safety. The hunters rested, the children slept, and the woman looked up at the stars. The sky seemed closer now, vast, infinite, and heavy with secrets. Every flickering light above her was a mystery beyond comprehension, yet something in her bones recognized it. The same way her body knew when to run, when to eat, when to fear, it also knew to look upward. It was the first spark of curiosity, the silent yearning that would one day build gods and science alike. But for now, it was only a feeling, distant, fragile, eternal. Suddenly, the night erupted. A cry, sharp, piercing, desperate, tore through the stillness. From the darkness beyond the fire's reach came chaos, the roar of a beast, the stampede of feet, the sound of flesh tearing. Panic spread like fire through the camp. The leader rose with a shoutless fury, grabbing his spear, his eyes locked on the black void beyond the flames. The woman snatched her child, clutching him to her chest, her heart pounding. The shadows moved, something massive, fast, unseen. Firelight flashed off yellow eyes. A predator, drawn by scent, by hunger, by the pulse of living things. The battle was brief but violent. The leader lunged with his spear, driving it into the darkness. A screech of rage answered. Men shouted, stones flew, and the fire blazed higher as if feeding on their terror. When it was over, silence returned, thick and shaking. The predator lay still at the edge of the camp, a great cat, its fur matted with blood, its jaws open in death. The tribe gathered around it, breathing hard, eyes wide with disbelief. They had faced the wild and lived. For now. The woman looked at the dead creature, its golden eyes fading into nothing, and a strange feeling stirred in her chest, not triumph, not joy, but understanding. She realized, though she had no words, that life and death were one breath apart. Every victory was temporary, every peace fragile. The world gave, and the world took, and between those two moments lay everything. Later, as the fire dimmed and the tribe settled once more, the leader sat beside her, silent as always. He looked into the flames, his face hard yet thoughtful. The woman leaned closer, her child sleeping between them, and for a long moment they simply breathed together, alive, aware. The night was cold, but their fire held. And somewhere beyond the edge of sight, in the whisper of wind through grass, in the faint hum of the earth turning beneath their feet, something deeper stirred, a sense that they were part of something vast and unending. They could not name it, but it had already begun, the slow awakening of the human spirit, the first quiet defiance against nature's indifference. Seasons changed without warning. The air grew heavy, the sky darker, and the rhythm of the world shifted once more. The rains did not come that year. What was once green and fertile turned brown and brittle, and the rivers that once carved silver paths through the earth shrank into shallow pools of mud. The world had entered its season of fire, a time when the sun burned too long and the wind carried the taste of dust. The tribe, once settled near the river's bend, began to move again, their survival now balanced on the knife edge of migration. Their footprints, pressed deep into the cracked earth, traced a path that countless generations had walked before and would walk again, though none of them knew why, only that stillness meant death. The woman led the way now. Her mate, the scarred hunter, had grown weaker after a wound that refused to heal. Infection had set in, a sickness no one understood but all feared. His body burned with fever, his eyes clouded with pain. The others watched from a distance, torn between loyalty and survival. To linger meant starvation, to abandon him meant guilt written in silence. The woman refused to leave him. She bound his wound with strips of hide, wiped his forehead with water she rationed from the last skin, and carried what food she could find. Her child, now older, walked beside her, his small steps matching hers in quiet rhythm. In his wide, alert eyes, the will of their kind endured, the instinct to keep moving, no matter what it cost. The days stretched long and merciless. The tribe crossed plains where bones of beasts bleached under the sun. Carrion birds circled high above, waiting for weakness, for stillness. Every sound was a warning, the buzz of insects overwrought, the distant howl of predators that followed them unseen. They scavenged what they could, roots from dying trees, eggs from abandoned nests, insects crushed between stones. Hunger gnawed at their bellies like a living thing. Yet even in that suffering, there was a rhythm, a strange, terrible harmony between them and the land that punished them. The woman understood it in her bones. The world gave nothing freely, yet everything they took bound them to it more deeply. Life was not a gift. It was a bargain. One afternoon, the horizon shimmered with heat, and smoke rose where lightning had struck the dry grass. Fire spread faster than thought, a red storm rolling over the plains. The tribe ran, driven by terror, carrying children and tools, dropping everything heavy that slowed them down. The woman clutched her child close, her lungs burning as smoke filled the sky. Her mate stumbled, collapsing to his knees. She turned back, her instincts warring within her love against survival. The fire roared closer, a wall of heat and fury that devoured all sound. Without hesitation, she grabbed him by the arm and dragged him forward, step by agonizing step, until they reached the bare ground near the rocky cliffs where the fire could not follow. When the flames passed, the world was silent again, a silence that rang like grief. The plains that had once fed them were now a wasteland of ash and bone. The air stank of smoke and death. The woman knelt beside her mate. His breath came shallow and weak. She pressed her forehead to his chest and stayed there until his heartbeat slowed and stopped. Around her, the others watched from a distance, too hollow to speak. They had all lost something in the fire: food, shelter, people. The woman sat still as the ashes drifted around her, her face streaked with sweat and soot. She did not cry. There were no tears left in a world that demanded endurance. But deep within her, a new kind of strength took root, a strength born not from hope, but from necessity. In the days that followed, she became the tribe's center, not by choice, but by gravity. The others looked to her for signs, for movement, for decisions. She learned to lead the way her mate once had, silently, with eyes that read the world like scripture. They moved north, following the flight of birds and the scent of distant rain. Along the way, they found remnants of other tribes, bones, tools, footprints, all telling the same story of struggle and migration. She studied them carefully, recognizing shapes and patterns, understanding in her own primitive way that they were not alone. There were others like them, scattered across the vastness, other fires, other hearts beating against extinction. The thought stirred something dangerous and powerful in her, awareness of her kind. At last, the rains returned. When the first drops fell, the tribe lifted their faces to the sky, their mouths open to catch the water. The dry earth hissed as it drank, the smell of renewal rising in waves. Grass returned, green and soft, pushing through the blackened soil. Small animals emerged from burrows, and fish once again stirred in the streams. Life, relentless and eternal, reclaimed its ground. The woman stood beneath the storm, her hair plastered to her face, her child laughing beside her, his first sound of joy since the fire. It was a fragile moment, but it carried a truth older than words. The world could destroy, but it could also heal. That night, as the tribe huddled beneath the dripping trees, she built a fire again, smaller this time, gentler. Its light flickered on their faces, reflected in their tired eyes. She watched the flames dance and thought of her mate, of the plains turned to ash, of the endless hunger that chased them. She understood now that fire was not only destruction, it was rebirth. It could kill, but it could also protect, warm, and guide. The same element that had burned her world now lit her path forward. In its glow, she felt not fear, but purpose. For the first time, she took a stone and pressed it against another, striking until sparks appeared. The others watched in silence. When the tiny ember caught and grew into flame, a murmur passed through the group: awe, disbelief, recognition. She smiled faintly, though she did not understand why. In that moment, the human story took a leap it would never undo. Fire, once stolen from nature, was now theirs to command. And with that power came a new kind of future, one shaped not only by survival, but by creation. The world after the fire was different. The land that had once seemed endless and wild now bore the scars of survival: blackened trees, broken bones, and strange, new life rising from the ashes. Seasons turned once more, bringing cooler air, gentler rains, and the quiet hum of rebirth. The tribe, smaller now but stronger, had learned to move with purpose. They no longer wandered blindly. Each step was guided by memory, by the paths they had taken, the dangers they had faced, the knowledge carved into their hands and hearts. Among them, the woman walked at the front, her child, now older, steady on his feet, by her side. The fire she had learned to make burned in her mind as much as in the stones she carried. It was more than warmth, it was the beginning of understanding. They found shelter in a new land, a place of rolling hills and scattered forests where rivers ran clear and the wind carried the scent of rain. The tribe built small circles of stone to shield their fires from the wind, marking a new kind of home. They hunted with sharper tools, their stones shaped with purpose rather than chance. The woman taught the younger ones what she knew: where to find water, how to tell the tracks of prey from the prints of predators, how to strike stone and spark light. She could not speak words, but her gestures carried meaning. Her voice was the fire, her lessons were the earth, and through her actions, a language of understanding began to form. One night, under a sky so full of stars it seemed alive, she sat with her son by the fire. He watched the flames closely, his eyes wide, mirroring the reflection of his mother's movements. Without knowing it, he was learning something that no generation before him had grasped, that the world could be shaped. The woman pointed toward the sky, tracing the lines between stars with her finger. The boy followed, mimicking her, his mouth forming sounds that meant nothing yet carried the rhythm of thought. It was the first murmur of language, crude, uncertain, but alive. In that moment, between firelight and starlight, something sacred passed between them, the inheritance of curiosity. The next day brought change. While foraging near the river, the tribe discovered the bones of a massive creature, a mammoth, long dead, its ribs rising like the frame of a fallen sky. The woman approached cautiously, touching the ancient bones. The size filled her with awe, but also possibility. The bones could be tools, shelters, or symbols. She motioned to the others, showing them how to break and use them, scraping, carving, shaping. They worked together, and soon the lifeless giant had become part of their world again, its remains transformed into weapons, vessels, and tools. The woman looked upon their work and felt something stir deep within her, pride. It was not the pride of ownership or conquest, but of creation, the first flicker of the idea that humanity could build. As weeks passed, the tribe flourished. The land gave more than it took, and the woman saw her child grow taller, faster, stronger. He hunted now, learned to use fire not just to survive, but to shape. He discovered that smoke could drive insects from meat, that heat could harden the tips of wooden spears, that flames could change the color of stones. Each discovery was a miracle, but none of them saw it that way. It was simply life continuing its endless experiment. And yet, beneath those simple acts, the roots of knowledge deepened. They were no longer just surviving, they were beginning to understand. But nature is never still. The cold returned, slow, creeping, and merciless. The rains turned to frost, and the rivers stiffened with ice. Animals grew scarce, the air thinner and sharper. The tribe huddled close to their fires, wrapped in furs, their breath fogging the air. It was the beginning of the long winter, a season that would test even their newfound strength. Many nights, the woman sat awake, feeding the flames, watching them dance as if to keep the darkness itself at bay. Her son slept beside her, his small hand clutching a stone, his tool, his weapon, his inheritance. The woman's eyes, once full of fear, now held calm determination. She had seen death, loss, and fire, yet here they still were. Life had found a way, and she had been its vessel. Then, one morning, the first snow fell, soft and soundless. The woman stepped outside their shelter and watched it drift through the air, landing on her open palm. It melted instantly against her skin, leaving only a drop of water, but in that drop was a revelation. The world could change completely and still go on. The snow covered the scars of fire, blanketing the land in white peace. She looked back at the cave where her people slept and felt something she had never truly known before, hope. Not the blind hope of survival, but the quiet faith that they would endure not just through her, but through those who would come after. Years passed. The woman grew older. Her hair, once thick and dark, turned pale like the ash of a cooling fire. Her son became the tribe's leader, his hands skilled, his instincts sharp. Under his guidance, they thrived, their tools more refined, their shelters stronger, their hunts more coordinated. They moved less, settling near the river that never froze completely. Children played near the fires, their laughter mingling with the crackle of wood. The woman watched them, her heart full of something vast and wordless. She saw in their faces the echo of her own, the same eyes that had once stared at the same stars, asking the same silent question. On her final night, the tribe gathered around the fire. Her son sat beside her, his hand resting on hers. She looked at the flames, watching them flicker and fold, each spark rising like a memory toward the sky. Around her, life continued, voices murmuring, the wind whispering through the trees, the river murmuring in the distance. She closed her eyes, her last breath mingling with the smoke that rose toward the stars she had once pointed to for her son. And in that moment, the story of her life, of all lives before and after, became one with the world itself. When the fire finally dimmed, the tribe did not let it die. They added new wood, new breath, new light. The child of her son, a girl this time, fed the flames, her small hand steady. The fire grew again, and its glow painted the stone walls with life. The cycle continued, not of endings, but of beginnings. In that flame burned everything humanity would one day become: memory, invention, love, and the unbreakable will to survive. And far above, in the cold silence of the stars, the universe watched quietly, knowing that from the smallest spark in the heart of an ancient woman, the dawn of thought had begun.